Okay, so let's go ahead and start, you guys. So what I'm going to do is let's look at Cece's first because she did that perfectly right. So she distributed the 2 into the parentheses. And since it's all multiplication, she only has to multiply it by the 4, which she did. So she got 8x here equal to 6x plus 32. And you guys, being able to solve and simplify equations is really important, especially as you progress through math. And so it's really difficult to continue on if you're not pretty good at this. And I can tell you that everybody struggles with this. So one thing to make it easier is just to always rewrite everything. So don't skip steps. Once I distributed, I went ahead and rewrote my equation. Now for my next step, what I'm going to do is combine like terms. So that means that I have to either combine them on the same side or move them to the same side to combine them. Well, the 6x and the 8x are like terms, but they're not on the same side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 6x over to the other side like this. And then I'm going to combine them. So 8x minus 6x gives me 2x. And see, and I'm trying to be very organized too. And then 6x minus 6x is 0, so that's gone. And then all I'm left with on this side is 32. So now what I can do is I can do my next step and I can get rid of the 2. Okay, because now what I'm doing is I'm solving for x. Okay, so in order to get rid of the 2, I have to divide because right now it's being multiplied. So 2 and x are being multiplied. So to get rid of it, I have to divide by 2. So I'm dividing both sides by 2. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that leaves 1x, which is the same thing as just x. And on the right side, 32 divided by 2 is 16, which is what Cece got. So good job, Cece. Very nice. Very nice. I like it. All right, and I'm going to do Israel's because I think that he is either stuck or no. Are you not stuck, Israel? All right, good. And D, thank you for making progress. That is good, very good. All right, so what I'm going to do then is, let's go, hang on one second. Let's quit that. Okay, so I'm going to look up at Notepad 1 because nobody did Notepad 1 real quick while you guys are finishing. And so in Notepad 1, again, we have these parentheses, so we have to distribute anything on the outside into the parentheses in order to eliminate the parentheses. And that includes if there was a negative out front as well. So 2 times x is 2x, and this is D like what you need to do. And then 2 times negative 5, and you have to be careful to keep those signs there, becomes negative 10, and that equals 24. So again, I distributed, rewrote it out. So it looks like you guys are doing that too, which looks good. And then now what I need to do is combine my like terms. So I'm going to move the 10 over to be with the 24. So I have to add the 10 and then add the 10. Okay. So if I add negative 10 to positive 10, I get 0. Those are gone. And then I get 34 on the right side. And then once again, just like this last one, in order to solve for x, I have to divide by 2. So actually, it's very similar to the last one, and I get 14. Okay, all right, so D, let's go to you then, actually, because it looks like you are, oh no, you're still working. You're good. Okay, let's go to Israel. So Israel, you are student number 4, and you did distribute the 2 into the parentheses, kind of like with Cece's. So 2 times 3 is 6x, which you had. And then, hang on one second. And then you have 6x, which equals 30. So you got that good. And then it looks like you were right on. You divided by 6 in order to isolate x. 6 divided by 6 is 1, or 1x, and 30 divided by 6 was 5. So good job. Very good. All right. D, on to you. Let's go. Let's look. And you guys remember, when you get stuck, you just need to say, hey, I'm stuck. So D, let's see, you are 2x plus 14. So what'd you get? 2x minus 4x. Yep, that's good. Except for it's not going to equal negative x. That's the only thing. So you've got 2x minus 4x, which is good. It just won't equal negative x. So let's kind of walk through where you are, and then you can help me if you want. Finish solving it. Let's see here. We'll go with some blue. Okay. So you distributed the 2 into the parentheses, and you got the 2x plus 14 equals 4x minus 9. Let's see. Very good. So you wrote that out. Perfect. And then you were looking at combining like terms. So you moved the 4x over to the 2x in your chat, which is exactly right because you got to put the x's together. So you would subtract it just like you did. Minus 4x minus 4x. So D, if you look at it this way, okay, I'm not going to do anything else at this time. All I'm going to do is subtract my x's. So D, what is 2 minus 4? What's 2 minus 4? Very good. Exactly. Negative 2. So perfect. So all I'm doing is just solving this first step. So I'm going to get negative 2x. And so we're still dealing in x's, right? We have 2x and we're subtracting 4x. So we get negative 2x. And then I'm rewriting everything I have, plus 14. And then 4 minus 4, that's 0. So now I have 0 x's. So on this side, I get negative 9. Okay. So D, what do I want to combine now? What two terms would I combine in my next step? Okay. So the only thing is when you're combining terms, they have to be like terms. So the x, that's a variable term, and the 14 is a constant term. So those aren't actually like terms. Can you think of another term that looks like 14? Another constant term? Do you see another one? Perfect, exactly 9. And just be careful because it's actually negative 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 14 over to combine with the 9. So I would need to do the opposite. So I would subtract it. And then I'm going to perform that operation and then once again rewrite everything. So I've got a negative 2x. Now 14 minus 14 is 0. And then negative 9 and a negative 14. Since they're both negative, I add them together to get negative 23. Okay. On to my final step. So I've combined all my like terms. Once you combine all your like terms, now you're ready to solve for x. So in order to leave x by itself, I'm going to divide out the negative 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is just 1. So that leaves one of the x's. And then negative 23 divided by negative 2, well, it doesn't come out even, but I do know that negative divided by negative is a positive. So I can leave it like that, or I can divide it and say it's 12.5. Either one is totally fine. All right, you guys. Any questions? Do you guys have any questions on this at all for your warm-up? All right. Nope, nope, nope. Okay, good. Well, you guys, the purpose of this warm-up is to help you in your next lesson. If you guys notice that geometry always uses algebra in order to find the solution. So what we're going to do today is kind of understand the relationship between triangle midsegments and the opposite side. And understanding that relationship means we're going to do some calculations very similar to the ones you did in your warm-up. And those will be based on this triangle midsegment theorem. So we'll use that to solve problems. So you need to be good at solving those types of equations, okay? All right, you guys, just again, same reminder, make sure that you post in order to get credit for the webinar. And today there's an actual question based on this webinar. And there's actually less than 2 weeks There's only 1 week, so that is actually a mistake. There's only 1 week left after this week to get all your assignments in. There's a little bit of time afterwards, like a weekend and a couple of days, no new material during that time, but just know that you only have 1 more week, you guys, 1 more week. So now is the time. All right, let us get started. So what I would do is make sure you have a paper and a pencil to take some notes if you haven't already taken notes on this lesson. All right, so what we're going to do is answer, what is a triangle mid-segment? So right now you guys should be thinking in your brain, hey, mid, that sounds really familiar. And you studied some things in the first week of this unit that were the midpoint. You found midpoint. So mid-segment is really the midpoint of the different sides. Okay, so like here's an example. If you want to draw the mid-segment DF, notice right here, I'll highlight it. Oops, that's not my highlighter. DF between AB, so here's segment AB, and BC. So I want you guys to notice one of these properties is an important property. I've drawn some congruency marks in here, which means that AD, so this little part here, is exactly the same length. In other words, it's congruent to DB, which is that second piece there. And that's what this says. AD is congruent to DB. So that's a property. If you have a mid-segment, that means you found the midpoint between A and B, which remember you guys did that back in week 1. So if you found the midpoint, then that means this midpoint breaks this side into 2 congruent equal pieces. Okay, and it's going to be the same on the other side. Notice I have a different set of congruency marks on the other side just because these 2 lengths don't match these 2 lengths. But I do know that BF is congruent to FC, so BF right here is congruent to FC right here. So that's one important property of a mid-segment that you should know. The other important property we're going to talk about in a second. So what I want you guys to do is type for me, just to guess, how many mid-segments does a triangle have? So what do you guys think? How many total mid-segments can you draw in a triangle? So put a guess in your notepad. Just put a number. Very good. Cece is guessing. Good job. D and Israel, how many? Okay, D, what do you think? How many? Hello, D. Are you still there? All you have to do is type a number. Israel, same for you. All right, D's typed a number. Israel, what about you? Type a number. Go with what you think. Israel. Okay, so all you guys are following CC. So you guys kind of think about it in your own head and don't always follow other people because what is CC is wrong, which she's very close and I applaud her on her initial guess. But let's kind of consider this triangle right here. I'm going to draw in a midpoints. So let me ask you guys this. How many midpoints does this triangle have? How many midpoints? All right, very good, D. So there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. So excellent job, you're exactly right. So if I want to create a mid-segment, I can create one here, just like we did on this example. But I can also create one here, right? And then I can also create one here. So in reality, we actually have 3. All right? All right, you guys, so that brings us to our second property based on the mid-segment theorem, which is what you're going to do some calculations on. The mid-segment of a triangle is half the length of the side it is parallel to. And we can actually calculate that if we have this in a coordinate plane because we've also used the distance formula, right? So if I knew the coordinates, you know, x2, y2, and I knew these coordinates as, let's say, x1, y1, I don't know what they are, I can actually calculate this distance and get 36, and then I can calculate this distance here between this point and this point. And what I would find is that this distance is half of that distance. So y is going to equal 1/2 of 36. And if you think back to the warm-up, this challenge problem right here that I'm starring, notice that it's division by 2. Okay, and that was for the purpose of if you like to think of your theorem this way, y is 1/2 of the base, right? The midsegment is half of the base. That's a little more difficult mathematically, so we can actually write it a different way. And we can say that 36 is double y, right? This length is going to be 2 times longer than y, so 36 is 2 times longer than y. So if I double y, it should equal 36. Well, I know y is 18, right, because half of 36. And if I double it, I get 36. So that's an easier way to think of the midsegment theorem, is that your midsegment, you can either think of it as your midsegment is half of your opposite side, or you can think of it as your opposite side is equal to twice the midsegment. All right, you guys, notice on this example here, next to it, this triangle ABC, notice that BP is 8 and PA is 8 because this is a midpoint at P and separates those two. Also notice that CQ is 9 and QA is 9 because, again, Q is a midpoint. So what I want you guys to type in your cell real quick is, what is the value of x? What does x equal in this example? What is x? X equals what? Good job, Cece, good job. Okay, so we're going to just go with Cece, and you are correct, because x is half of 6. The midsegment is half of the side that's opposite to it, and there's only one side that's opposite. All right, coming up in future lessons, you're going to learn that these two are parallel to each other, and you're going to learn about some different angles along those lines. So I could say that the midsegment is half of the side that's parallel to, but we haven't studied that yet. But anyway, so this is half, or you could say that the opposite side, the base, is twice as long as the midsegment. All right, you guys, I'm going to have you calculate some problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to do student number 1, notepad 1, just so you can understand how this looks. And then I'm going to have you do your own. And once you're done and I've checked you off, then I'll let you do your ticket out. So I'll show you the question right after I do notepad 1. All right, so think about our relationship, right? So there's 2 ways we could do it. We could say that the midsegment, which is 3x minus 1, is equal to half of the opposite side. So I could write it like this, 1/2 times 34. And I could definitely solve that because 1/2 times 34 is easy to figure out, right? We just divide by 2. So that's one way, but remember that's a little bit more difficult. The other thing we can say is that the long side, 34, do a different color. So I'm going to say that 34 is equal to twice the short side. So 2 times the 3x minus 1. Notice that looks a lot like your warm-up. So in order to solve that, remember what we did. We took and we distributed the 2 into the parentheses. So we ended up with 34 is equal to 6x minus 2. Then we just need to combine like terms. So I would add 2 to both sides. 34 plus 2 is 36, and that is equal to 6x because negative 2 and positive 2, when I combine those give me 0. My final step then is to solve for x. So I divide both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, so that leaves 1x, and 36 divided by 6 is just 6. All right, you guys, and that is how you do notepad number 1. So you can choose to do it the way I did it in purple, and actually for this problem that's probably quicker, or you can choose to do it the way I did it in pink. But always keep in mind the relationship. The mid-segment is equal to 1/2 of the base, or the base is equal to 2 times the mid-segment. So just be careful not to mix those up. All right, so what I'm going to do, in case somebody finishes first, is show you your ticket out. So what I want you to do after you do your problem is this. In Schoology, and you'll see it in Schoology, define a mid-segment. So tell me what it is, and describe the relationship between the mid-segment and the opposite side. So that's pretty much all we talked about. If you want to give an example, that's always extra great. That's perfect. So that is your ticket out. So go ahead and do your notepad that's assigned to you. And then when you are finished, I'll check it. And if you're good, you can go. So how are you going to separate the 2 and the x? Because those two are being multiplied. So think about what's the opposite of multiplication. And then Israel, you have, you're really close. X plus 9 equals 2. But then it should be times that short side, right? That short side isn't 3. The short side is 2x minus 3. So you need to take it as equals 2 times x minus, or 2 times 2x minus 3, because that's what the length of that short side is. Okay, there you go. So Israel, now you set up your equation. You have the long side is equal to 2 times the short side. So now they're balanced. Now all you have to do is solve. So think about our warm-up and how we distributed. Okay, so D, if you divide by 2, you are exactly right. But what's, if you're going to divide by 2, what's 11? You did 2 divided by 11. So what you want to do is 11 divided by 2. But another way to write that is just 11 divided by 2. Like how you have it. You don't have to actually divide it out. Hi, Kiana. We're almost done, actually. But I can go over what we did in a minute with you. I'm just wrapping up with D and Israel. So good, D. Very good. Awesome. You are done. So you can leave, but make sure you go and you post for your ticket out. Awesome job. All right, Israel, so we're just waiting on you. So Kiana, what why Israel's finishing up, because he's on the right track, I'll just kind of walk you through like what Cece did on Notepad 2. And then I can kind of explain the properties to you at the same time. We basically just talked about that these are triangle mid-segments, and that these mid-segments, I should say mid-segments, are half as long as the side that's opposite, so the base. In other words, the base is equal to 2 times this mid-segment. So if I was going to set up, for example, in Notepad 2, this base, 58, if I wrote it as equal to 5x minus 1, something would be wrong there, right? Because those sides are not equal. But I know the relationship between these two. 5x minus 1 is half of this, or the base is twice as long as this. So what I can do is I can just double the mid-segment, so I can put a 2 in front, and then I have a correct equation. So in order to solve this, this was part of our warm-up. What we did is we just distributed the 2 into the parentheses, making sure that we multiply the 2 by both the 5x to get 10x and the negative 1 to get 2. And then we're going to combine like terms. So I have to bring the 2 to combine with the 58. And then over here I get 60. And on the right side I'm left with 10x, because negative 2 and positive 2, when I combine those, they zero out. Let's see. Okay, good, Israel. You're still on the right track. Very good. And then the final step to solve for x is to get rid of the 10. And when you have a 10 sitting right next to the x without a plus or minus, we know that they are multiplied. So we would just divide them away like this. And 60 divided by 10 is 6. and 10 divided by 10 is 1. So what Cece got here for number 2, x equals 6, is how she did that. So the key is setting up the right relationship. So like if you look at Israel's in student 4, he said that x plus 9 is equal to 2 times 2x minus 3 because this mid-segment is twice as long as the base. So if you want to try, Kiana, and just set up a relationship like between, well actually here, let's do this. If this base is 28, so I'm going to highlight it so you can see it, 28 right here. What is x? Type to me, what is x? Kiana, and if you're not sure still, just let me know. But, and Kiana, why don't you be in student 5? How about that? Israel, so that's good. You add 6. So what are you adding 6 to on the left side? What number? Start it. All right, Israel, that looks perfect. So very nice. So the key for you, Israel, is remember how you set up the relationship, right? You're always going to take whatever's in your mid-segment and multiply by 2, and then set it equal to the side opposite. Distribute, combine like terms, solve for x. Beautiful, x equals 3. So Israel, you may go. You can go. Just don't forget to post in the in Schoology. Bye, Israel. Have a good day. All right, Kiana, let's look for you last but not least. All right, so you moved the 4x over, nice. And then, so you had, okay, so the only thing is when you move the 4x over, you can't combine the 4x and the negative 2 because those aren't like terms. So what you would have on the left side then is 4x minus 2, right? And then on the right side, you would just be left with, what would you have left on the right side? Good. So now you can move over that negative 2. So how would you move the negative 2 over? Perfect. Yes, awesome. Very good. You would add 2. Nice. Good. And then your final answer is, yay, good job, Kiana, good job. Okay, so very nice job. So what we did, because I know you missed the very beginning, is we just looked at the relationship between triangle mid-segments and the opposite side, and then we used the triangle mid-segment theorem. That's what you were just doing to solve problems. So if you can just remember that the relationship between the mid-segment and its opposite side is a half, or this is 2 times as much, you will do fine. So just whenever you're doing your work on that, make sure to set it up and show it to me, because then I can see if you just make a math error. So for the end, your post is just to define a mid-segment and describe the relationship between the mid-segment and the opposite side. And if you want to give an example, that would be awesome too. And that's it. All right, Kiana, any questions? Okay, perfect. All right, Kiana, you have a good day, and then